stress is coming to me, woof, compose. Just constantly let go, let go. And let go of the tension in your body. But you really need to have sex often because that's a really good way to release the tension. And that's why they become more tense and tense and tense. So my advice is get fucked. Yes. This drama, the drama is what causes the stress because it perpetuates, it's like a ripple effect. So yes, mindset is imperative. Absolutely. You create with your words, your thoughts, your emotions, etc. Yes. But if you don't clear, see the junk in the middle, deeply buried, keep catching up with you again and again and again until you clear. How often we think that the grass is greener on the other side. But if you don't clear your vibrations, they're going to come with you. I'm willing to release whatever is in me that is creating this situation. Please, unravel this for me and only put me in front of people who are serious and not going to waste my time. And it did. It was magical, really. To me, it's more like knowing how to connect with your inner source. This is really where the answers are in the 85%. Big dislike for all these labels, because if people are not that, they just become that because they believe it,
Once you've seen what's out there, it's hard to forget it. And that curiosity, even if you settle, it's like you still have it.
We've all been taught that, our reality is on the outside. And whatever you see is real, but it's not. It's just, you could have a car accident with 10 witnesses. You're going to get 10 different ways.
However, there's something holding you back and you're not doing the things you know you should be doing. And because you're not doing those things you should be doing, you feel stress.
Stress, yeah, to me is this big knot in the stomach when you get overwhelmed. There's the child rebelling against what it needs to do. But really, most of the times, if you don't feel like doing it naturally and happily, is because you're on the wrong job.
Or you can climb one mountain from 3-4 sides, and each of the journeys will be completely different.
We have to focus on one. This is why it becomes so effective. Mind being out of the way, and we kind of talking more to your subconscious, really. And this is how we get to create and manifest what we want. If you created it, you can uncreate it. So we're going to do that right now. And then we try to narrow it down to one issue, because the mind can't deal with a shopping list. A lot of relationship breakdown come from the fact that women are too controlling. It's like people think they own everybody in their lives. And they're holding on really, really tight. But if they learn to just let go and allow people to be, and
stop controlling, stop grasping, and just let it go. The more you try to grasp, the more it goes through your hands like sand. So you might as well let go and release.
Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay.
So welcome, this is Love Your Stress podcast with Toms and Angelique, and we're going to talk about stress, how to love your stress. And before we start, I just love to give opportunity, Angelique, to tell her a little about herself, what she's doing, where she's coming from, so you have a better understanding who's my guest today. So Angelique, tell us about yourself a bit in a couple of words.
Thank you for having me, by the way. And so what I do, so my name is Angelique, and I'm originally from Switzerland, but I live in Brisbane, Australia. And I've been here for over 30 years. And what I do, I'm a rapid transformational therapist. But it comes with a lot of intuition as well. And I usually transform people's lives after only one session by releasing whatever it is that's holding them back, that's deeply, deeply buried in the subconscious, that they sometimes even forget about, really, because they, something they don't want to remember. And so if they don't clear it properly, it's just a matter of time until it comes in and creates havoc in their life. So that's what I do.
So just before we started this meeting, you said that you have quite a bad business model, that you usually have one session and you clear the whatever's blocking people.
Yeah. I know I could give you lots and lots of examples, but it's quite staggering. And every time, I had a lady who was depressed for 26 years, clinically depressed, and she was ready to come and see me 3 times because sometimes that might be necessary.
Mhm.
Uh, but after one session, she was really happy and content and didn't need to come back, which is amazing. And yeah, I have lots and lots of stories. I mean, incredible stories, that I have, but obviously can't share other people's stories too much. But you know, yeah,
Well, there's always time and place to share other people's stories, in a sense of keeping their privacy. And I imagine you have relieved lots of stress for lots of people. And before we actually begin in diving into this topic, I always love to start the interview and a podcast with getting on the same page and understanding what do you mean by stress. So, can you define stress in your own words?
I would say when you get this knot in the feeling, this feeling in your gut here,
Hmm.
it cramps up on me. It's sort of like, oh my God, this is overwhelming.
Hmm.
I have an example where, like when I was working for my son recently, they would give me about 5 leads, 5 addresses, 5 people to go visit, to go see if they wanted to buy a solar system. That's what I was doing. And unfortunately, they were not next to each other. That would be in an ideal world. They were obviously quite a distance apart, sometimes an hour's drive. So it was absolutely not physically possible to see 5 people at once in one day. So in the morning, I'd go, oh my God, okay, whoosh. I'd do this every morning. I say, universe, please, unravel this for me and only put me in front of people who are serious and not going to waste my time. And it did. It did. It was magical, really. And that's the thing. You have to be able to hand it over to the universe because they are really guiding you all the time. So you have to trust a little bit more. But stress, yeah, to me is this big knot in the stomach when you get overwhelmed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. Also love how you expressed where how physically you can feel it and where it's in your body. And I'm also curious, is there something else except the physical, not in a um, stomach? Is there like emotional thing or something else that you notice?
Um, no, because, well, I'm probably not the best person to ask this question because I've worked on myself for many, many years.
Mm,
So if I did have some, emotional fog or something, I would know how to get to my source straight away to get some answers or to release it instantly. Yeah, so I'm probably not the best person to ask.
I think
But
that's
no,
on contrary.
yeah.
You are the best person to ask because you
Oh,
can
good.
share your experience of how you got to this point where you can immediately get to the source and
Oh,
resolve it before it becomes an issue.
yeah,
And I would love
absolutely.
for you to kind of first explain how it was before you started your journey
Yeah.
to give you like to give people imagination where you're coming from, like
Okay.
give like a story how it was before, and then we move on from there.
Okay. So it's going to start way back in Switzerland when I was about 17 at
Mm,
school. And one teacher said to us one day that we only use about 15% of our brain. And my thoughts were like, oh my God, what are we doing? The answers are obviously in the 85%. So I've actually really, really delved into that my whole life to get to the
mm.
to the root of it. And I can say that I feel pretty good because I'm on top of it. And so I traveled, or started, no, hang on. Stress is coming to me. Woof, compose. So I grew up, my parents had a restaurant and it was not like the restaurants in Australia or in America. It was more like a little bit of a pub place, where everybody
Mhm.
was always gathering. And I was just observing people getting drunk all the time and gossiping and complaining. And I'm thinking, why are they doing this? Why are they? And the next day they're going to have a big headache if they drank too much. I mean, why do that? I couldn't understand it. And it was probably the best thing because I don't drink much at all and never have really because of that reason, And anyway, so then I decided to travel the world. First I went to England to learn English. And then that already opened up my horizon, that not everything was black and white like my parents had taught me. There was a lot of shades of grays and there's a little punt in there. And so I traveled the world and saw many, many different perceptions and different ways of being, different languages, Um, and that sort of opened up my mind more and more. Yeah, I read a book once. My very first opening was a book called The Sage. It was in French, and it was an unknown author. And that's what opened up to this realm, what a lot of people call spiritual, but I don't really like that word because I connect that with religion, which is not necessarily the case. It's, to me, it's more like knowing how to connect with your inner source. This is really where the answers are in the 85%. And so there, and then when I first came to Australia, I married a so-called socialite who, that's kind of so funny. There's a very big twist in that story if you wanted to know, but it's a long story, so I better not go there. And then when we broke up, I thought, oh, that's it. I'm going back to Switzerland and earn some decent money because the wages here were very low at the time. And I was about to go to Switzerland when I met my husband, and he was from Italy, my neighbor, really, born in Milano. He was born about 3 hours away from where I was born. And he was my extreme opposite. And yeah, it was just, the knight in shining armor type of thing. We were married for 20 years. It was before he passed away. But what happened, I just kept thinking that he had lots of bad luck. If he worked for people, he wouldn't get paid. If he opened up a business, there'd be a fire, there'd be drama, drama, drama all the time. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this guy? Why does he have so much bad luck? And the stress that this was causing for us all, this drama. The drama is what causes the stress because it perpetuates, it's like a ripple effect. And anyway, so 7 years into my marriage is when he finally opened up and he told me that he had been raped by an uncle. And oh my God, I was devastated. I thought I couldn't sleep for a week. It was just couldn't believe it. Obviously knew the man and I couldn't say anything. Oh my God. And he was in pain 24/7. So I'm in front of the whole world here, but I'm just going to say it because I'm hoping that it's going to help someone else in my, because you meet this knight in shining armor, you're in love with them, and then you discover something like that. What are you going to do? You've got two choices. You can abandon them, and you know where they're going to go, down, or you can say, well, this was what I chose to do when I first came on this planet, and this is my journey, and I'm going to make the most of it. I mean, there was a lot of happy times. We have two absolutely extraordinary children who are absolutely brilliantly leaders in the making, still working on it, but they're amazing. And I just got a granddaughter. Yay! Just had to put that out there. She's gorgeous. Yeah. Anyway, but so the way he was dealing with that pain, because it was lingering and lingering and lingering and lingering, and yes, he smoked a bit of marijuana, but it still wasn't enough. It was lingering and lingering, so that occasionally he just had to have a fix, and he would inject drugs, and I'm just going to say that on the phone on this, and he would just have his release, and then he'd be a little lamb for many, many weeks again, if not months, and I was able to stretch it further and further away. That's all I could do, but he was still a big mess all his life. So that stress, I mean, I don't know if you can possibly imagine the roller coaster every time, he had the build up and the build up and the build up, and he had to get his fix, and then we'd go down again. The medical system would have probably called him bipolar, which is, anyway, I have a very big dislike for all these labels, because if people are not that, they just become that because they believe it, Yeah. So he was definitely not that. He was just the drugs. I was making him do that. And yeah, he could never get over it. He never got over it. I tried. So that just, and it's unfair, feel very bad because, no, I can't feel bad. I don't feel bad. It's not true. But I felt bad at one point because I thought, oh my God, why couldn't I have discovered RTT before, which is what I do. And I'm going to explain in a minute because I would have been able to fix him. But the thing is, you've got to understand that, and I'm sure you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes.
And that's the thing, I went to a healing quest, a healing workshop, and there was this lady who would talk to the people who passed away, and she was doing this little talk, and she said, oh, do any one of you have a question? I said, yes, I lost my husband 2 years ago, and I would have really thought, because we were so close, that I would feel his presence all the time, and I don't. And she said, oh, he's kneeling in front of you right now with a bunch of roses, and he's saying, thank you so much for never giving up on me. You've given me a beautiful life, a beautiful family. I'm so grateful, but it was time for me to leave because I'd done what I had to do. So but it was very hard. So now I just kept going with my growth, personal growth, etc. And then I discovered RTT. So it's called Rapid Transformational Therapy because it's rapid most of the time. Yeah. And Marisa Peer, hello, she's the teacher, but then of course I'll explain to you how I put my own intuitive juices in it. But obviously that process that she's put together over the last 30 years, is very, very powerful, and it works every time, as long as the person is really willing to release whatever is in them that's holding them back. Yeah. So do you want me to explain what a session is?
I want to just bring a bit of a summary and what I've heard. So if I understood you correctly, then everything started for you as you made the decision to start the journey. Basically, it was a decision. And then what I've noticed in my life is that traveling opens up the mind to possibilities and options. And it's quite mind-blowing. And I've seen it many, many, many times during my also own traveling and meeting other travelers, that people who travel, they have way more open mind, and they're just more curious about what's out there in the world. And that also makes them more versatile and more just playful in their lives, even if they're not traveling. That's kind of like, once you've seen what's out there, it's hard to forget it. And that curiosity, even if you settle, it's like you still have it. Like and I think it's one of the keys for the many people I've met during my life, is that people who travel, who have decided that I want to see something else, they have this kind of inner curiosity, even if they're not traveling anymore. So I just wanted to bring it out.
You're absolutely right, and I completely agree with this. Yeah. And that's the thing, even the Jews and the Catholics both said, give me a child from 0 to 7 and I'll own them for life. Because we've all been brainwashed. We've all been taught that, our reality is on the outside. And whatever you see is real, but it's not. It's just, you could have a car accident with 10 witnesses. You're going to get 10 different ways of people, seeing the accident as it was. And that's the thing. You're absolutely right. However, I must stress something here.
Okay.
Because, being European, you totally get what I'm saying. They tend to all be into this zone, like I don't know if it's the mountains or if it's just the old generations or whatever it is, but there's like a big cloud that's hovering, and they're always grumpy and depressed and morbid. And Australia is free. No, I'm just, hey, there's good and bad everywhere. I'm just saying. But a lot of Europeans say that about Australia, and that's why they stay. And the beaches, you don't have to kind of like try to get a spot for your towel. You've got so much space. It's not funny. It's extraordinary here. I absolutely love the outdoors. But the thing is, I actually I am a co-author in 3 books, and in one of the books I wrote that you can hang on, how did I say this? But it's basically, how often we think that the grass is greener on the other side. But if you don't clear your vibrations, they're going to come with you. And no matter what drama you left behind, like again, if you don't clear it on the very deep level, it's going to come and catch up with you and bite you in the bum when you least expect it. And that can happen and destroy your main relationship. It can destroy your success at work, because you've been brainwashed when you were so little that you're never going to amount to anything. So that's always going to hinder you, because it's deeply buried in the subconscious. And so you have to be careful to clear your vibrations before you go and live somewhere else. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's also interesting that you can travel and kind of change the environment, but as you change the environment, you might see the same patterns, and it kind of opens you up, and then you see, wait, I had this problem back home, and now I have it here as well. And then you start thinking maybe there's a pattern there. And as you travel more, as you try to escape, you see it coming back in different ways and forms, and then you start wondering, is there a pattern there?
That's exactly right. It's spot on, Toms. Spot on. And that is why I say my clientele is over 30, because when you're young, you think you got it all, you're cool. But like you said, as you start to come into that age, you sort of think, oh, hang on a minute. I'm taking 5 steps forward and 10 backwards, 5 forward, 10 backward. What's going on? Why do I have this pattern? Where does that come from? How do I release it? And since we're on the subject, there's a lot of healing modalities out there, and a lot of them are all of them are good, let's face it, and they all have a place, and they all help you towards your journey. But I just found that a lot of them are very, very slow. I mean, I'm 65 at the end of this month, and I tell you something, there is no way on the world. I mean, I would have never been to where I am if I didn't use something a bit more powerful than simply affirmations, because you can say, I'm willing to release whatever's in me that's creating this, over and over and over and over and over again. But like when they in psychology, they say that by the age of 7, you've built your little box in here, your data is all done for your computer. Well, they reckon it's now 2, by the age of 2. That's pretty extraordinary. So, my granddaughter is 1. So I'm making sure we're putting some good shit in that box. Yeah. So there we go. So how is stress affecting your clientele?
Well, most of the time it's mental blockages. And as you said, you try to move forward, and then you feel either you don't take action or take the wrong action, like procrastination. And it's instead of dealing with the issue, people usually don't deal with it, or find some other ways to have distracted from it, and that causes stress, because in subconscious you already know that you want, let's say, to have promotion in a job. However, there's something holding you back, and you're not doing the things you know you should be doing. And because you're not doing those things you know you should be doing, you feel stress.
100%. But in saying that, oftentimes that happens because you're in the wrong place.
What do you mean?
You might not. Yeah, oftentimes. It's not always, but always. when you're reluctant to do something. So there's 2 aspects, there's the child that's rebelling against what it needs to do. But really, most of the times, if you don't feel like doing it naturally and happily, is because you're in the wrong job.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So, this give and take a little bit everywhere.
I always love
But
to see at least a couple of perspectives on the same thing, and that's always true. Like it's always enriching to see. Okay, there's one way of looking at things, and there's another one. And I usually look it as a. I love hiking, so I usually use it as a hiking metaphor. You can climb one mountain from 3, 4 sides, and each of the journeys will be completely different. Everyone
brilliant.
still gets on top.
I
However,
love
the journey is completely different. One can be steep and rapid. Another one will be like really slow, easy, and long. One side may have rain on it. Another side will be completely sunny. So, and everyone goes on top and meets there and kind of have completely different stories over the same problem of climbing the mountain. Like
it.
you can call it a problem, but you can have a journey. Yeah,
It's a great analogy. I'm going to use it. That's amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And I was thinking about you mentioned RTT, and I would love for our listeners to know more about it, especially because just a couple of weeks ago I was coming from Mind Valley University, and I actually saw
Oh,
some presentation from Marissa Pierce, and I'm actually more curious about how you got into learning from her, like what was drawing your attention specifically to her, and where has it gone so
so,
far?
so I don't know. It was just one of those aligning moments,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was the right thing for me. She uses hypnosis. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we use hypnosis to get to the. So let me explain a little bit what the process is, because that's okay. So first we have a little bit of a discussion with a person, because when they fill in the intake form, they can tick lots and lots of things
Mm-hmm.
not working for them. So, I mean, allow me to kind of list a few things. So we could, it works for anxiety. And let me just quickly share a story, actually. I'm getting
I
sidetracked, but
love
that's okay.
stories. I love
Yeah,
stories.
oh, good, good, good. So I had anxiety is everybody has anxiety, but it's a little bit like a mountain, there's so many different ways that we deal with our anxiety. And anxiety is basically attached at the hip with a stress, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And often depression as well. But anyway, so I had a lady in Israel that contacted me for a session, and she had actually done 2 RTT sessions with other people. But see, actually pause that. I'm going to explain to you the process so you understand more how I dealt with it. So the process. So we talk to the person, then we try to narrow it down to one issue, because the
Mm-hmm.
mind can't deal with a shopping list. We have to focus on one. This is why it becomes so effective after one session, because we narrow it down and focusing onto one. So then we put them under hypnosis. So it's not the old-fashioned way, it's pretty sharp, fast, and effective. And once they're on the bottom, it's obviously just your mind being out of the way, and we kind of talking more to your subconscious, really. And this is how we get to create and manifest what we want. So I'm just the facilitator, and I will ask the person, to give us an idea. I have scenes popping up in your mind that would be the root cause of your issue. And we do this 3 or 4 times. And then we then do a little daisy chain to sort of see the relation. And so when the person realizes, oh my God, I've created all this because of that. Well, if you created it, you can uncreate it. So we're going to do that right now. So then we do a few different exercises, which it all depends. You see, this is where you have to use your intuition and kind of go with the flow. And we basically we become a dentist and extract it from the vibrations
Mm-hmm.
once and for all. Then we do a little bit more clearing, and then we do a recording at the end, which a recording that's tailored for the person. We're going to put in all the magic words that they've given us at the beginning. And at the beginning of that recording, they put themselves back under hypnosis. So it works on a very deep level, and they have to listen to this for at least 21 days so that it completely rewires their brain and puts them back in that beautiful place, Yeah. So this particular lady, going back to Israel, she had anxiety galore, like massive anxiety, was skinny as anything, couldn't keep any food down, was pacing the floor all night, couldn't sleep, because she was American, Buddhist American. Her daughter lived in California, but she was with her husband in Israel. She had 5 boys in the army. And the only reason she couldn't go live in California is because she was the only point of softness for her youngest son, who was still coming home every night. So she, when the other ladies wanted to see scenes of why she had anxiety, it didn't work for her because it was relevant to her current situation. So this is where my intuition came in, and I rolled with it and did other processes. And bingo, I mean, she's given me a beautiful testimonial. She said that I was the most elevated person she'd ever met. And she was a Buddhist, and she'd met many, many elevated people. And I thought, whoa, that's a pretty big compliment. And then, she's now living in California. It's just like she was able to detach herself from the situation, realizing that, it's like people think they own everybody in their lives. And they're holding on really, really tight. But if they learn to just let go and allow people to be, and realize, oh my God, I've given birth to my sons, I've trained them, taught them everything. That's it, it's their journey now. Their choice is what they want to do. It has nothing to do with me. I can let go now. And that's what really helped her a lot. And changed her life after one session. Yes.
I was thinking along the lines, I really love how you mentioned detachment and letting go, because quite recently I was watching another video about astrology, and the guy was giving advice to different star signs, and almost all of them had this encouragement to stop controlling, stop grasping, and just let it go. The more you try to grasp, the more it goes through your hands like sand. So you might as well let go and release. And I was thinking, do you have any advice to our listeners? What's the best way, or like technique or affirmation, whatever? Like, what's the best tip for the people to learn to let go?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good one. And I have an analogy for you too. When people imagine an elastic,
Yeah.
and they're pulling and holding on tight and holding on tight. If they keep doing this, poof, at one point the elastic is going to break.
Yeah.
That's why they have to allow people to, to be. I always say, hang on, I have a saying. Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have this saying that I put on my little thing fly, and I couldn't remember it, but I just want to read it out to you. Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. And that's a Dalai Lama, but that's really, really powerful. My advice is to recognize again, in the moment, just constantly all day long. Actually, that's probably the best tip I would say, is all day long, keep letting go. It's crazy, but try to do that for a week and see how your life will transform. Just constantly let go. And, let go of the tension in your body. And, I mean, this is going to sound a bit weird, but I'm going to say it. But, you really need to have sex often because that's a really good way to release the tension. Just constantly let go. And, let go of the tension in your body. But, you really need to have sex often because that's a really good way to release the tension. And that's a difference between men and women. Men, they wake up, we know they need that release, but women, they ignore it. First thing they do when they wake up in the morning is think, okay, what day is it? What have I got on? What am I wearing? Woof, and off they go. They never check to see if they need a release. And that is a build up, a build up, a build up, a build up, a build up. And that's why they become more tense and tense and tense, So my advice is get fucked.
I'm just curious. You said the man wake up and then he need a release. Do you know if there's a difference between evening or morning, or what's the best time? The question is, when is the best time of the day to have a release in general, or you have to just listen in and see how it works? And is
Oh,
it
everybody's different, darling. It's everybody's
okay?
different,
Just
you
curious.
know. Yeah. I mean, I had a client once who worked in mines. He
Mm-hmm.
would go to the toilet 5 times a day to have a release.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe that? That's
I
really
can.
hectic. That's all. Yeah. But yeah, and that's because he kind of needed that recentering because it realigns you. It realigns you and it releases all the stress from your body. That is the best thing, honestly. Yeah. I know it sounds funny. I mean, this is why I'm an unconventional relationship coach.
Mm.
Yeah. And what I've learned from my husband. Yeah. So,
Another thing that caught my attention was before you mentioned about when we are going along along our lives and travel, then you said we need to clear our energies when we move on to live in a new place. Do you have any tips along that as well about clearing energy?
yes, but again, I'm just going to put it out there. Not
Yeah.
that I'm the only RTT practitioner in the world, so you can go to anyone else. But I'm just saying, you can use affirmation. Obviously, affirmations
Mm-hmm.
are very powerful. But if you're going to use affirmations, yeah, writing them down is also very good. And something comes to mind here that I'm just going to have to jump in and say because it's really coming through, and it is the fact that there is another thing that I'm sure you're aware of it, but some people may not. We are shifting on the planet, or we've already shifted, from the third dimension to the fourth and the fifth. And as we've elevated into these dimensions, anything we say, think, or do is a lot more effective. So affirmations, which I used to do, I've been doing all my life, maybe it didn't work so well because we were still in the third dimension,
Mm.
where today they would be more powerful and more effective. So that's just one thing I had to add. But I would also recommend that you reach out to an external person to
Mm.
lead you through a process like RTT, to really dig deep and go find out what it is that's holding you back. Because it's not just one thing, it's a combination, and the whole process that Marisa Peer put together is phenomenal. It's just staggering. It's changed my life so much, and everyone else I touch. So that's pretty cool.
So basically, summarizing your tip, if you have time and you don't have anything pressing, use affirmations, write them down, journal. And if
Yeah.
you're on a rush and if you want to experience your life to the fullest, search for an expert and see what they can do for you.
Oh, look me up, please,
Yeah.
because I can do all my sessions online via Zoom, just like you and I are talking now. It's pretty fun. It's pretty amazing. Just like my lady in Israel, that was all Zoom, and it worked. And I mean, I've had customers in Melbourne, everywhere really, and it's really really good. It's brilliant. I'm on top of the world. Really, I believe that what I do is or where I'm at, because I started from the spiritual journey. Then I looked at the oh, I forgot to maybe say this here. I did look at where the medical system was at, and
Mm-hmm.
psychology and all this, and I did counseling. But what I didn't like too much about counseling is first of all, you can't even give people advice. It has to come out of them. Then they just keep dwelling in the past, constantly dwelling and dwelling and dwelling, and it just keeps them there, you know. And also, like, since my husband passed away, which is, I keep saying it's 15 years, it could have been a bit more now, who cares? Yeah. On the other side, you have this, I mean, again, with all due respect, we need a lot of them, and it's great that they're doing it. But I see a lot of life coaches that are half my age and think that they can teach me, and that is all about mindset. So yes, mindset is imperative. Absolutely, you create with your words, your thoughts, your emotions, etc. Yes. But if you don't clear, see the junk in the middle, deeply buried,
Mm.
keep catching up with you again and again and again until you clear it. So one affirmation I really love, and if you were to use affirmations, you can write them down and all this, but I would really highly recommend that you repeat them when you are in a deep meditational state, because and it's going to be much, much more effective. So one of them is, I'm willing to release whatever is in me that is creating this situation. That's a powerful one. Or I'm willing to release, my excess weight, because excess weight, that's another subject I quickly want to touch on. You probably heard of Louise Hay, who also spent 30 years, making the correlation between each physical ailment to a psychological ailment. So it has now well been proven that most illnesses are psychosomatic. And once again, this is where my work comes in so beautifully, and I transform people so magically. And that's why they call me the magic transformer, by the way.
Mm.
Not bad. So there
I
we
like
go.
the title. I love magic in general.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you, Thomas. And I'm sure you'll do really well in your life.
One more question I usually like to ask my um, guests is, what do you think about the title, Love Your Stress? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Love it, because it's basically your inner guidance trying to tell you something. So that's another, okay, here I have a good story for you. That was quite a few years ago. I was in a pump class. I used to do pump classes, with the bars. And I went to put my bar down, and holy cow, I had this incredible sharp pain in my back. I'd never felt like it before. And I thought, okay, the universe is trying to show me what my husband gets occasionally, now I get it. He's not faking it, no, but it wasn't that. So I went home, and my kids say, oh, go to the doctor or the physio or whatever, or go get some painkillers, and I'm thinking, nah. So I went to bed, and I thought, slept for about an hour, and I woke up, and the pain is still there. So I went to sit in my chair, my meditational chair, put myself, nice and connected to my inner source. And I asked, what are you trying to tell me? And I sat in that chair for about an hour, because I just needed to get an answer, and the answer came. So I then agreed to make some changes and did a little bit more work. And the next thing you know, I got up the chair, I had no pain, and never came back. So it's always the universe trying to tell you something. And, initially the universe is trying to tell you something. You might, like have a little backache like this. But if you don't listen, you might get another knock on the head. And if you don't listen, well, you might have a car crash, and, or you have something even worse. It's because you are not in your true power. You need to find your mojo. You need to find what makes your life worthwhile living, what makes you happy going to work. Like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what we are all meant to do in this golden gauge that's just ahead of us. That's where we're all going to be eventually. Eventually. It's a fair bit of work to be done still, but yeah.
Another thing I like to ask my guests is, do you have any recommendations for at least one person to reach out as a next guest who you think would have pretty good insights and hopefully some stories about stress management, how to deal with stress?
I actually do. I'm thinking of a young lady who is also my client, and she's also does yoga. She's in Melbourne. And yeah, she comes from a Lebanese family, so a lot of same kind of things that you and I've been through. And yeah, so she would definitely be a brilliant person to interview. I will let her know if that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I feel like wrapping this podcast up. And as a final note, could you give another time short description how you help people, and what's the best way to reach out to you if they want to work with you or any offer you have?
Yes, yes, thank you. So I do have a website. It's called angeliquetransformer.com. Angelique Transformer, or you even angeliquepellegrino.com, either get to
Mm.
there. So I do have a few offers on there. So you can just do one RTT session and be on your way. You can, there's a little package where you pay for two. So, one could be for anxiety and one could be for your finance. I knew a lady who was stuck in a part-time job that she hated.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so what happened after the session, she went back to work on Monday. They closed that office and she lost her job. And she was going, oh my God. Anyway, she was offered something else and made $8,000 that first week. Do you know what I mean? It works. It really works. Yeah. So so 2 sessions or 3 sessions, you could do another one for relationships. That's very powerful as well. And that's the thing in relationship, a lot of relationship breaks down come from the fact that women are too controlling, and that's why we need to do something about it, and that's why I'm talking to you right now. And then I have recently just put together my own juicy little meditation for somebody who's new in meditation. I've put this package, and yes, I took a lot from and I'm a Mind Valley lover as well, and from Abraham Hicks, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's been working on that field for over 20 years as well. I mean, he's more like a science type of guy, obviously being a doctor, it's metaphysics, but it's still the same thing. It's all that same soup, you know what I mean? Yeah. And where was I lost my train of thought now.
Meditations.
Yeah, meditation, that's another one. And then I've just put and I've also realized that some people actually need me there every week to kind of boost them. So I've just put together some programs where they can actually work with me for a few months if they prefer. So that's all on my website. Otherwise, I also have a link tree. So please let me read it out because I'm not very good. So it's called, hang on, my light coming on. Whoops, can you still see me? Yeah. So it's Linktree and / Angelique Pellegrino. So it's linktr.ee/ Angelique, Angelique Pellegrino, just like the water, Pellegrino. So you're going to see all my social media on there. And that's it. I look very much forward to changing the world. Hey, come on. It starts one person at a time, because you're going to have this ripple effect. Everybody around you are going to say, oh my God, what have you done? Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I had just one more story. Have you got time?
Yes, always.
Yes.
Love
Okay.
stories.
So this one man came to see me, and when he first walked in, I thought, oh my God, this guy's on ice. So, I did my counseling with a group that had an anti-ice campaign. So not only was I aware of that, but I also had a husband who was, dabbling in that. So I had a lot of insights on that. So I confronted him because, it's not very safe for me. And he goes, oh, no. I used to be, but I've been medicated for 2 years. But he was really heebie-jeebie, and he couldn't really sit on my beautiful red lounge for 90 minutes. He couldn't, he was just too heebie-jeebie. So this is where, again, my insights and my life experience that I've learned from my husband is, guess what? Can you guess? What was wrong with him?
Not yet.
He had an entity in him.
Hmm.
So you see, what happens is when people do drugs to this level, or sometimes it can happen also if they drink heavily, they break this shackle, this little protection that they have around them, and these beings that are in between worlds, they might have committed suicide or something. They love it if you join them, and they jump into people and have a bit of fun and create havoc. And there's a book, I forgot the name of it, but it's a psychologist who looked into this, and she said 80% of people get at least one invasion once in their lifetime, but they don't even know it. So I was able to remove that thing from him, protected him for it would never come back. And then when he went to see his psychologist that he'd been seeing for 10 years, the doctor goes, what the hell happened to you? He didn't recognize him. He was so calm and collected. Yes.
That's amazing story. And
Thank you.
on that note, I think we can finish up. Thank you very much, Angelique, for coming. And
Thank
we'll see you again at some point.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. All the best.
Smile and be present.
Indeed.